Here we have the brand new Elysium Noir by Roja Parfums. And of course, I am a huge fan of the Elysium line. I've always been a fan of the original. It's just so bright, so citrusy, so clean smelling, but still quite earthy, and there's a darkness underneath. And of course, we have the brand new Elysium Noir, which is housed in a bit of a darker bottle. So you have a dark gradient going to blue at the bottom. And of course, with the Noir designation, the expectation would be that this one is going to be darker, possibly richer, perhaps a bit stronger. And of course, that is the case with a lot of Roja Parfums fragrances. A lot of the ones that I own, especially Manhattan and Oud Extraordinaire, and there's so many beautiful creations from the brand that, in my opinion, are actually quite strong and really, really long lasting. And I truly love the brand Roja Parfums. I've been a fan of them for many, many years, going back to like 2012, 2013, when I initially discovered the brand. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about this fragrance. Before I start, I do want to mention that if you're a fan of perfume-related content, and if you love smelling your best, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and also please give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me, and it goes without saying that Elysium Noir is my scent of the day, has been my scent of the day, and I actually brought this with me as I was traveling into the city today, and I absolutely am in love with it. It is such a masculine, clean, energizing, sophisticated, gentlemanly, super well put together fragrance. And I absolutely love that for this fragrance. So a bit of an unconventional note breakdown. So the perfumer is Antoine Coton. And this one opens up with a lot of citrus, right? There's also helvetalide, there's hedione. So you have some clean molecules in there. The hedione creates this beautiful diffusiveness. So as soon as you spray it on, you are going to get noticed, right? It's really loud and robust. The helvetalide, it's a clean musk, but it adds a creamy texture to the composition. But of course, there's a lot of citrus as well. You have bergamot, it's very bright and vivacious in the opening, and it's that bright citrusy pull that really gets you noticed in this fragrance. The one thing to be said about a lot of Roja Parfums fragrances is that they're very non-linear. So the way that they open up is going to be quite different from the experience that you're going to get 30 minutes into the dry down. And then, of course, hours later, you're going to be met with a totally different animal of a scent. In the heart, you have this really interesting combination of blackberry and rose. And you think about that blend, and by the way, as I'm smelling it right now, I've got to be totally honest with you, I'm getting more citrus and juniper than anything else, but I'll get to that in a bit. You do have this combination of blackberry and rose, and the blackberry is not saccharine. As a matter of fact, there's nothing sweet about this fragrance at all. So I do believe that we are in alignment with that noir designation. And then even as far as the rose is concerned, there's a lot of really wonderful floral ingredients being utilized across the Roja Parfums catalog of perfume releases. And some of them are quite rich and quite out there. I think Elixir Pour Femme is a beautiful take on rose. I love that one. And that, I acquired that one many years back. And this one, I'm not getting a strong floral presence. So if you're a gentleman and perhaps you have an aversion to florals, please don't let that be a deterrent for you, thinking, oh, okay, there's rose in here, it might be feminine. That is well beyond the case. This is not going to be your typical floral fragrance. As a matter of fact, like I said, I get a lot of juniper. And juniper, in many cases, can have a bit of an astringent smell. And the good thing is that I'm not getting that from this fragrance. Normally if it's very dark, very sharp, very woodsy, almost like peppery leaning, it has a bit of an astringent characteristic, but I'm personally not getting that from this one. And as a matter of fact, I think the citrus in alignment with the juniper almost kind of gives it like this gin and tonic vibe that I'm really enjoying, but save the freshness. So a lot of gin and tonic fragrances on the market are very citrus heavy. I mean, the citrus is quite noticeable, and I'm personally not getting that from this fragrance. The mass appeal of this fragrance is through the roof. Now, that is not to suggest that that's the only thing sort of happening in the mid or dry down. There's also incense, there's patchouli, there are some other earthy facets. And of course, I'm just rattling off the notes that come to mind and the ones that I get most strongly in this composition. If you know anything about fragrances by Roja Parfums, you know that they are quite complex. You look at the note breakdown and it's populated by nothing short of like 40 notes. I mean, look up any fragrance from this brand and they're all very, very complex, very high quality as well. In the case of this one, what I'm getting primarily is juniper, a touch of earthiness, a little bit of like that incensey backbone, but it's not overly resinous or balsamic, and it's not smoky either. It's quite citrusy and woodsy without that astringent quality that I typically get from juniper scents. This in many ways is a less fresh version of the original, but it's a bit darker. It's a bit more sophisticated. It's quite grown up. The thing about Elysium, and I believe I have my bottle here behind me, I actually have 3 bottles of Elysium. This concentration, and I believe 2 bottles from the other concentration is, and I have the other one, O Intense, I believe it's called. So this one is very, very fresh, very bright. I mean, it is super uplifting, quite energizing as well. So this for me is a very active type of a fragrance. When I'm on the go, when I want something that's fresh, that's going to yield compliments, it's mass appealing, I always go for the original Elysium, either this concentration or the other. But with regard to this fragrance, this one is much darker, but darker not in an ultra dark type of a manner. And had there been more amber, had there been a smokier incense, had there been, a very noticeable earthy base, then I would have said, okay, they went in a very dark direction. But they managed, or I should say, and by they, I mean Antoine Coton, the perfumer, and also Roja Dove, they managed to create a fragrance that is darker without being ultra dark and super heavy, which I don't think I would have minded either, if I'm being completely frank with you. But I think there's something about this one that retains the mass appeal of the original, but it also adds this really noticeable tone of sophistication. And I think sophistication from the house of Roja Parfums has presented itself in a few different ways. If you take a look at something like Danger or Scandal, those go in a more, dare I say, vintage direction in terms of the scent profile. And whether we're talking about the fougères or the chypres, these are genres that I think a lot of people have familiarized themselves with in the 70s, 80s, early 80s and late 80s. And here we have something that speaks to modernity. We have something that is classy and sophisticated and refined and gentlemanly without veering in that direction necessarily because of the prominence of the citrus, because of the prominence of the juniper. And again, as I'm smelling it in the air, I'm getting a bit of a floral component, but nothing that smells overtly rosy to me. All in all, I think this is in my opinion, beautiful fragrance. Yes, it is traditionally masculine leaning. So if you adhere to those traditional prescriptions, as it were, then you're also going to find this one to be quite masculine leaning. But again, if you have no bias, for lack of a better word, with regard to what the fragrance is marketed as or for whom it's marketed, and you're just looking for something that is woodsy, citrusy with the bergamot and the lemon, you have the juniper, the rose, a little bit of that blackberry, absent of any sweetness with an earthy dry down, a touch of the incense without being overly balsamic, without being smoky. You have a nice tone of patchouli, but again, it's a very smooth, elegant, clean patchouli. It's not overly dense. It doesn't smell chocolatey. And it's also not the variety of patchouli that smells like soil either, because I think for a lot of people that could potentially be a deterrent. Elysium Noir by Roja Parfums is one of my new favorite fragrances. And I think also because of the noir designation and the fact that the brand did go in a bit of a darker direction, now you have a fresh leaning fragrance that can also be comfortably enjoyed in the fall and winter. Now, of course, I always say this, I've been saying this for years. If there's a perfume that you really love, you're going to wear it despite the season, despite the occasion. And of course, 99% of the time, we are wearing fragrances in a climate-controlled environment. So we don't need to be uber mindful of, oh, is it going to be 60 Fahrenheit outside? Is it going to be this? Is it like, it doesn't really, I don't know why I looked at my watch. But I'm going to be honest with you, I love this fragrance. I'm going to be wearing a lot of it. This is totally in line with the types of fragrances that I enjoy wearing. And I am confident that as more and more people get their nose on this fragrance, this will become a fan favorite. Now, of course, if you're into the gourmands, I've always been an advocate for Sweetie Oud. Of course, there's also Lost in Paris, which I think is chef's kiss. And as a matter of fact, it smells a bit culinary, if I'm being honest with you, but that is such a beautiful gourmand if you can afford it. And it's not a full-blown gourmand, right? Like, it's not a juvenile, overly sweet cotton candy type of a fragrance. Roja Dove always creates fragrances with a high level of sophistication and, dare I say, maturity. And so the brand has a lot of really fascinating fragrances and a slew of different perfumes for you to discover. And, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting Roja Dove in person several times throughout the years, and I have purchased so many fragrances from the brand, and I truly am in love with the brand. And so I am very happy, and I'm beyond ecstatic and honored to have this fragrance in my collection. As I've mentioned, I have been wearing this one for the past several days, and I will continue to wear this one despite the fact that it's gotten quite cold here in the New York area. Doesn't change a thing. I love the DNA. I'm going to keep wearing it, and kudos to the brand for creating and crafting something that is exceptionally well done. That's the most that I can say. But again, if there's some means by which you can procure a sample, that would be the best way going about it. I think this one is a bit less than $400 American, and I know it can be found in major department stores. No matter where you live, in the UK, in the US, there's always a way for you to walk into one of the major department stores that carries this brand and sample it. But I would say this is one that you should definitely keep on your radar. This is just like a really polished gentleman in not even a club, because I don't think it would be the type of guy who would entertain himself with going to the clubs. Maybe perhaps in a gentleman's lounge or perhaps in a bar. And he's not drinking a cocktail, he's having a gin and tonic or a whiskey neat or something of that nature. Like, this is the type of gentleman I imagine wearing this fragrance. But all in all, these are just, you know, narratives that I've concocted in my mind. At the end of the day, your nose needs to be the ultimate judge as to whether or not this is the type of fragrance that you would personally enjoy, or if you're a lady watching this video, if this is the type of fragrance that you would prefer to smell on that special someone in your life. Whatever the case may be, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. That was my review of Elysium Noir by Roja Parfums, one of the newest fragrances from the brand. And also, I should mention the red berries in Neiman Marcus, which is the newest fragrance from the brand. Absolutely beautiful. The saffron, the red berries. Hopefully I can get a bottle of that soon, and I would absolutely love to cover it on my channel. But thank you for watching. If you took anything of value from today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you would consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell. And if you haven't already done so, please give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. Oh, and one more thing for the people, because I know I'm going to get asked this question. I personally get about 7 hours longevity on my skin. So it's a decently long-lasting fragrance, despite the fact that it does open up rather fresh and citrusy. Thank you for watching. Love you all. And we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.